All right, welcome to the Spoiler Kings. My name is St. Kareem. We're Brandon over here, Brandon Grizzly over there. And we're going to talk about Skeleton Crew. We got the final episode, and it's the end of the season, possibly end of the show, maybe. But yeah, we're going to get into kind of the little bit of the end of the show, and then the overall rating for the season. We'll start with Brandman. What you think about the final episode of Skeleton Crew?
I think it wrapped things up competently.
Mm.
Like we said before, this show was pretty much the Goonies and kind of like a throwback to like not just the Goonies, but like Explorers, E.T., a lot of kind of 80s fantasy stuff movies. So I thought the kid actors were really good. I thought their dynamic was really good. It had that really kind of like whimsical vibe to it. It kind of wrapped up the way I figured it would after last week's episode with the parents getting involved, them kind of seeing what was going on. I thought it did decent enough in bringing in wrapping things up.
Uh,
You know, I think that I don't really see there being a second season.
Yeah.
I think this was kind of a one and done type story. I think it wrapped things up appropriately.
mm.
Mhm. I wasn't necessarily like mind blown by it. It was more of what I've come to expect from the show as a whole. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm, It when
Okay.
when it ended, I was like, they did their job.
Yeah. Okay. What were you, Brian? What some things you liked about it?
What's in like? They wrapped up
You
stuff.
don't think about
The kids were. I like
Mhm.
what happened with all the kids. The endings for the kids. That I'm gonna keep with that. The kids ending made sense, and the way they changed made sense. I'm not going to say the rest about the rest of the show.
Mhm.
All the good stuff. Yeah.
What
I mean,
about you? What
yeah,
about
for me,
you?
it was fun. I had a lot of fun with it. I enjoyed all the kids. Especially by the end. At the beginning, maybe not so much. By the end, I enjoyed them all, and I enjoyed them as a group. Was really cool. And it was ultimately just a fun story of these like Brandman said, these Goonie kids in space. So you know I thought it looked okay too. For having some issues with Star Wars lately, with stuff looking cheap because of the they use the volume a little too
Mhm.
much. I thought this looked good. Overall, I didn't see anything too glaring. Where like that doesn't fit. Like at least CGI wise. But yeah, but definitely love the characters. Love Neo.
Mhm.
I love Neo. I know somebody else said they didn't really care
Least,
for him. I love
least
Neo.
favorite.
Yeah. Yeah.
Definitely.
Okay. Yeah.
Give me KB all day.
KB was awesome too.
Give me-
KB was super, super cool. But
she's smart. She
she's
knew
a
her
badass.
thing. She didn't care. She was able to do all the excellent things. I mean, she grew. Neil,
Yeah.
eh,
By the end, that last episode, he
he,
got some
yeah,
courage.
yeah,
Yeah.
a little bit.
But
He was annoying as hell the entire time for me. So I'm a KB fan. So that's just
okay. But yeah. So those are our goods for this episode. Any issues you had with it, Brandman?
I think the end was a little more abrupt than what I expected. But then I kind of thought back to the vibe that John Watson, I think Christopher Ford was his last name, were kind of going for, that 80s throwback vibe where it just kind of it ends and that's it. No like prologue, no epilogue or anything like that. So
Mhm.
I kind of get what they were going for, but at the same time, I was kind of like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
I think that was my biggest thing with the way that it wrapped up. But other than that, like I said, I thought it did decent enough. Um yeah, the way that it ended. couple loose ends that I was kind of wondering about.
Yeah.
You could tell that the people behind the camera were kind of like, okay, that's enough. We're done. Let's just end this.
Like,
Mhm.
we're going home. We're going home now. We're going home. Yeah. Okay. What are you, Brian? Or maybe, you know what? Let me go first because let me go first.
Mhm.
Because I'm kind of like right there with Brand Man. You know, it was a very quick ending that felt very abrupt. You know, with it, I kind of want a little bit more backstory with things, like how things happen after. You know, what happens with the Empire. You know, not the Empire, but the New Republic kind of coming in, and what happens with all this money. You know, what happens with Jod. You know, it was like a lot of questions, but stuff like that was my main issue with this episode. Was just like, and what else? You know, and then like, and that's it.
Right.
You know, so that's my biggest issue with this episode. And now you, Brian, because I know you got a
Dude,
lot more
this
than
was a
me.
terrible, terrible finale. It was awful.
Really terrible finale. Okay.
Concept was stupid. So a place that has all is controlled totally by droids is just defeated by one lightsaber in the right place.
That's
What
true.
freak are we talking about? That's ludicrous. It's stupid. It's unbelievably stupid. It's literally like the writer and director said, you know what? That's a lot of stuff to kind of wrap up. Let's just figure this shit out. It's just we're going to stab. He stabbed it. Everything goes out. The planet is doomed. We're good. You know, like, there's no safety on this giant gun. Let's let Neil go ahead and figure this out. He can just go and jump in there and do that. It's ludicrous. Like, it just doesn't make any sense at all.
Yeah.
It's not a good ending. And I was really getting on a roll where I was enjoying the journey.
Mhm.
But then you didn't even try to wrap it up. Like you had all these things that are opening up, and I'm feeling like this storyline is going well. What are they going to do with John? Like all this stuff was happening. Their development was really good, dude. That was not a good finale. Everyone's just letting it go because it's kids. That was not well written. It was like, and they had some really well written stories. I mean, in storyline in episodes. That was not one of them. I'm sitting there thinking like the entire time, like, what? This is what you guys went with? This is what we're happening? Really? I didn't like it. I didn't like it at all. And then, not to mention the problems at the end. You know, so now this planet is out there. You know, the remnants never. There's no remnants problems of anything. There, everyone knew exactly how to get there. There's so many other issues I have with it, but just the concept, just the simple concept of how they decided to end it was bad. They could have done so much more, and I think I'm more disappointed because I think that I would have enjoyed it more if they would have stuck the landing. And I don't think they stuck the landing. I think people are giving it a free pass, but I guess people aren't giving it a free pass because most people don't even know it because they're not watching it.
Yeah, that's a bigger issue.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, the way that it ended, like it felt like it was doing this build up with the big chase and then the climatic fight and the big confrontation and then Wim, what are you looking at? Wim, what are you looking at? Wim, come away from it. Oh, cut to black. It's like,
one lightsaber destroyed all their technology that was controlling it for all these years.
Yeah, I mean,
One.
Yeah. That's why, like, for me, I was like, oh, when he did it, I'm like, oh, but there's gonna be like Wizard of Oz, right? Like there's the actual person, controlling the robot is gonna come up, and then we got none of that, and I felt like let down a lot with why didn't they show the captain, the old captain, why was he blurred out? Because it was like they teased you with like, oh, he might be something later, but like there was a lot of things that didn't pay off. Yeah. And then ultimately too, like, hey, these 4 kids just ruined everyone's life on this planet.
Yep.
Everyone's life. That was my thing too. Is like you were, granted, you were little cogs in the little machine, but I'm like, but now you got to deal with the New Republic coming in, gonna take all that damn money because you ain't keeping that shit, you know. And now everyone who was living this nice life, you're all broke, you know, like
all because Wim couldn't stop pushing buttons.
Yeah, exactly, you know. So, you know, that was my thing. Was like these kids.
It's the way that they got John, like, got his attention away from things that allowed Wim's dad to be able to do this stuff was stupid. Like, there's so many things, like, or it was just terrible. So that's like, I'm looking at it like you finally got me over to the point like, okay, I'm enjoying this thing, and then that finale, really, I'm just not with it, man. I'm not.
Yeah. It was very lackluster for me. You know, I didn't hate it as much as like everyone else did, but there was a lot of issues with it, and I'm probably overlooking a lot of it, like Brian said, because I enjoyed the rest of the show. So like the stupidity of like you said, that story of that distraction, I was like John should know. Like he's like, no, you guys are, you know, dumbass kids. Like like I know what you're trying to do, but
they could use the robot. They could have used a lot of different things, and they just didn't.
Yeah,
and I'm like, the captain. I mean, they could have figured it out. There's better storylines with just, you know, me and you spitballing. That's what you went with. Come on, man.
I still feel like the captain should have been in charge of it somehow. Like
how did it come? How was it crashed on the planet? Where did it go? Where did he go? If you can't get off planet, there's too many questions that you could have answered and chose not to.
Yeah. So but yeah, with that being down, let's just jump into our rating for the entire season. You know, we haven't got a confirmation of a season 2 yet. And like Brandman said, this kind of finishes it. Like we don't need a second season, really. You know, and I'm cool if we don't get a second season. Like this was fun enough. Leave it alone.
The only reason I'd want a season 2 is because I want to see some consequences.
Yeah, right. Put these kids in jail. Brian, calm down. Yeah. But here, let's jump into our ratings. So now, later, never. So this is for the entire season 1 of Skeleton Crew. Now means you got to binge it right now, watch it all together. Later means whenever you got time, no big deal. And never means just skip it all together. We'll start off with Brandon over here. Brandon, what you think about Skeleton Crew? What you giving it?
This is a later. You know, it's fine. It's fun, you know, especially if you grew up with things kind of like in the same vein or of like kind of 80s or early 90s throwback kid adventures. It's a fun enough watch. It just doesn't really bring anything to the table in terms of the greater universe. I think it's fine as a time waster, even though I think the way that it wrapped up kind of fell flat. But other than that, the kid actors are pretty solid. You know, Jude Law is pretty good in pretty much anything he shows up in. I thought the show was decent, but there's better stuff that you could watch too. So I'll give it a later.
Okay. What were you, Brian?
I'm going to barely give it a later. And it all comes from the season finale, honestly.
Yeah.
I think the season itself was fun enough. It doesn't add anything to Star Wars. It doesn't really, you know, add anything to the lore or world building or anything like that. It really didn't do any of that. So I hoped for just a good story and a good finish, and it didn't really deliver on that. You know, it was a good thought. They had all the elements of having something really good there, and then they just flushed it down the toilet. So, you know, I'm not going to put a never because it's not never. It's just that once again, when you do a poor finale, I think it really affects the show
Mhm.
a lot more.
Mhm.
Because
I agree.
I'm more on the like if it would have been a great finale, I would almost say, man, you gotta watch this.
Yeah.
You know, but the fact that it's that bad and I have all those problems, just because they're kids in it doesn't mean the plot needs to be stupid.
Mhm.
Don't insult my intelligence, and that's an issue. So I'm gonna just barely give it a later. On a verge of like, man, you probably don't ever need to watch this, but I'm gonna give it a later because I feel like I want people to give it a chance. Just know that
Mhm.
the finale is not good.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, for me, like I was ready to give this a now. Like I'm like I had a lot of fun, and then the finale happened, and I was like, ugh, like it like you said, Brian, like a finale affects the whole show, and it's like that's the last thing I remember. You know, that's the last thing they show us, and it wasn't good. You know, it just was just so lackluster, so rushed, so sudden, and and but I mean for that I'll still give it a later, because it was pretty good, for what the 9 episodes I think it had, or 8 episodes or whatever it was. Um, there's only really that finale and then like one other episode in the season
I
that was
didn't
kind of
like.
like but otherwise it was pretty fun. But for the most part, it just like it adds zero to the Star Wars universe. Zero.
Mhm.
But it's fine. It's just right now is not the time to do something like this when Star Wars is
You're on life
struggling.
support.
Yeah, you're on life support and you're just like, what would be good? A show about nothing. It's a fun show, but it's about nothing. So it's like
But even
cool.
then, if it stuck the landing, I can accept it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It just the ending was very, very disappointing. Disappointing for otherwise fairly entertaining show. But for that, yeah, definitely a later. Um, but yeah, yeah. Go into some of your guys' comments real quick before we end it, because I know all you guys have some comments on it. Bigger for Entertainment says Skeleton Crew was okay, but it didn't feel like Star Wars. And said some other stuff, but we focus on that first part. Ms. Honey said I was utterly disappointed by Skeleton Crew finale. Overall, it was good. So
Mhm.
kind of how we're feeling it. Those are our thoughts for Skeleton Crew, with the finale and the season overall. But we want to hear from you guys. We got some people in our live chat letting us know what they thought. And if you want to be part of our live chat, then make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. Come join us every Monday and Thursday when we do our movie reviews, TV show reviews, trailer reactions, and all that fun, nerdy stuff. If you are in the live chat, stick around because we're going to get into the rest of your comments right now.